Hey guys, my name is Adam. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're covering 10 things that you should know before moving to Canada. And you may have heard of some of these before, but I still think they're important enough to go over for the people who haven't heard them. Lots of people have been asking for a video like this, so I figured, you know what better way to share the knowledge than a top 10 list, right? I've lived in Canada for 21 years now, so like almost my whole life, so I've got some good things on this list, at least I think. Number 1, if you do not say A after every second sentence, you will be arrested. Just kidding. It's actually every third sentence. Of course, I'm kidding. Most of us actually don't even say A, but that wasn't number 1. I was just kidding. So let's actually get into it. Number 1 is the high taxes. Now, some people may comment and say we don't actually have high taxes compared to places like Sweden, where the income tax is something like 60%, which is crazy, but it's important to know if you're moving from a country that has a lower income tax. You can expect taxes to take 15 to 40% of your income, depending on how much money you make. And to put it into perspective, if you got a job offer in Canada for $100,000 per year, at the end of the year, you'd really be getting $70,000. Because in this tax bracket, making $100,000, about 30% would be taken away, which is $30,000. So when you are planning your budgeting and expenses, make sure to take away an extra amount for taxes and not just go off what your salary number is. Number 2 is languages/locations. Now, most people know that Canada has 2 official languages, English and French, but what's important to look into before moving here is making sure if you learned English, make sure you're moving to a place that is primarily English speaking. Because I think that would be a tough thing to make a mistake with if you learned English to move to Canada and then you move somewhere that speaks French primarily. That would be unfortunate. Currently, the only province in Canada that is primarily French speaking is Quebec. It's a pretty easy thing to figure out. Just type in primary language for and then put the city. Many people think or speak of moving to Montreal, but sometimes if they're from a different country, they don't know that, yeah, Montreal is primarily French speaking. Number 3 is the weather. We all knew it was going to be on the list. So if you live in Canada, it's kind of a must-do to complain about the weather every once in a while. And that was another joke, but also not really, because it's a very popular conversation topic. Anyways, if you've watched any of my Vancouver videos on my channel, you would know that I live in Vancouver as opposed to anywhere else in Canada because it does not snow that much here and it does not get that cold here. By the way, if you're moving to Vancouver, check out my guides linked below. Before you decide where you're going to move here, make sure you Google what the average summer temperature is for that area, and more importantly, what the winter temperature is. Because it's not uncommon for some places to go below -40 or -50 in the winter, and that's like the weather where you walk outside, you start crying right away. Not because it's painful, but because it's so cold that you just start crying, and then the tears freeze on your face. It may sound like I'm being excessive, but that does happen. Yet some of those same places can go to +40 in the summer. And by the way, I'm talking in Celsius. And you can also find places that are neutral pretty much the whole year, so it doesn't get too hot or too cold. Depending on what type of weather or temperature you're into, you can do a little bit of research on that. Number 4 is healthcare being free/not free. As many people know, we have free healthcare here in Canada, but not everything is free. It's free if you want to go see a doctor for a checkup or about a certain something, but if they prescribe you pills or medicines or a prescription and you have to go buy that thing, then you have to pay for that thing yourself. Sometimes the company that you work for will have a benefits plan where they pay for things like your medicine and prescriptions. But that's not for every job, so you should ask your employer about their benefits. And another part of our healthcare that is not free is eye care and dental care, which is another thing your employer may cover if they have good benefits. Because these 2 things, well, 3 things, can get pretty expensive. Number 5 is tipping. I know tipping in a lot of countries is not expected, and it's just something you do when you had a great time or exceptional service. But in Canada, tipping is normally expected, and not on everything, not when you go to the grocery store or things like that. I'm sure you could Google a list of when you should actually tip, but normally it's for things like a taxi driver, a waiter or a waitress, a barber, and a lot of other things. And if you don't tip for these services, it's usually seen as somewhat disrespectful, and the average tip is around 15%. And I'm not telling you guys what to do or what to tip by any means, but it is normally expected and most people do it. Number 6 is open liquor or drinking in public. So drinking in public is illegal in all parts of Canada besides Quebec, where you are allowed to drink in a park if you also have a meal with you, which I found out after doing my research. Anyways, I know drinking in public is literally no big deal and it's so many places, but in Canada, people will not like it usually. A lot of people don't care, but the cops, they will care, of course, because it's against the law. So that means no drinking at the beach, no drinking at parks, public. You guys get the idea. Number 7 is the different lifestyles. Since Canada is such a huge place, there are like tons of different lifestyles that people can live. If you wanted to be a cowboy and own a bunch of horses and like a pig farm in the middle of nowhere, you could do it. And if you wanted to live a stockbroker lifestyle in downtown in the skyscrapers, you could also do that. And I actually know of someone who was a stockbroker in downtown Vancouver and they moved to Ontario and bought a farm. So, I mean, a lifestyle change doesn't get much more extreme than that. And that was all within, the same country. Number 8 is multiculturalism. Canada consists of people from a multitude of racial, religious, and cultural backgrounds, and the majority of people here I'd say are pretty welcoming. I actually read that someone from Toronto did an experiment to see if they could find someone from every single country in the world just on the streets of Toronto, and they actually did it. And even I was surprised to hear that because I did not think that that would be possible. Number 9 is transit. So as I mentioned before, Canada is a massive place and I'm sure you guys know that, and that means that some places have zero transit because there just aren't enough people in a specific area for it to make any sense. In the larger cities like Toronto and Vancouver, as far as I know, the transit is pretty good. I've never been to Toronto. I know people who say that the transit is pretty good, but in Vancouver, I can say that in my opinion, the transit is good here. And it's good to the point where most people in my area don't actually own a car where they live. But I still own one because I love my car, even though it's a piece of crap. Which is the second part of this point, and that is that if you do live in a place where there is no transit, I mean, you kind of understand that you probably would need to buy a car. So if you don't want to own a car or you don't want to use transit, make sure you move to the right place. And you can always search up a city and see what they offer as far as transit goes. Number 10 is how nice are we really? So Canadians are nice, right?
Wrong.
No, I'm just kidding. In general, I would say that we are a nice group of people. But just so we understand like how nice, because people know we're nice, but like how nice are we? We'll hold the door for you if you're close enough, and if you drop something on the sidewalk, we'll most likely help you pick it up. I mean, not during this current time because of like the pandemic, and it's not because we're not nice, it's because of the pandemic. But if you just came up to me on the street and asked me for $5 because I looked nice, I mean, chances are I'm not gonna give you anything. Overall, most people are kind here, and you will run into people who are rude here and there, just like everywhere, but there's more nice people than rude, no doubt. At the end of the day, if you do your research, I'm sure you'll find out everything that you need to find out, and Canada isn't really hiding any big surprises, I mean, as far as I know at least. You guys can follow me and DM me on Instagram at @theadamjbell, as I try to answer everyone back, so if you have questions about Vancouver or Canada, you can send them to me over there. I'd appreciate a like or a comment on this video if it helped you at all, or if you enjoyed it in any way, and I will see you guys next week.